It's on. I'm Fernando Villa, and I'm the director and writer of this piece, theatrical piece.
And you're also acting in it.
And I'm gonna
Yes.
act.
Yes, and I'm Stephanie Griffin, and I'm the composer of this piece, but I also happen to be the violist of the Momenta Quartet, for whom this piece is being custom built.
So they came to Mexico City to perform in a French place that is called Bucareli, and there we met. I really liked Momenta's music, and not only how they performed, well, what they performed, but how they performed. They are like very theatrical.
Yeah, we went after we met. After the concert, there's a little bar area at Bucareli. We were hanging out at that bar and we were talking, and then we talked about the idea of potentially doing a musician-actor collaboration. You know, where the musician's an actor and the actor's, you know, like kind of integrated.
Oh, guys, everything is okay. Everything's okay. I guess we are ready to start. Ladies and gentlemen, Momenta Quartet.
And then Fernando gave me tickets to see his play, El Príncipe Inocente, which I loved. It was kind of whirlwind tour, farcical, 18th century? Is it 18th century?
No, 16th century.
16th century play, in which only two actors and lots of very simple gestures and very basic props, very basic elements that were used in different ways to kind of create different scenes and different characters. My Spanish is not very good, and I was laughing so hard that I was almost in tears. It was so funny.
They were on their way to the concert from the far side of the mountain. They were very cramped inside the car. It's not easy playing 4-string instruments inside a petite car like that. Outside, it was raining cats and dogs. Michael was at the wheel. He's nearsighted, and he had it difficult to drive while playing the cello. But this was his car.
And then we met after that, and we had breakfast together, and he was telling me that he really, because we started talking about what we might do together, and he said he really liked working with children, like children's theater and that kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I got back to New York, and I was just sitting in my apartment, and I saw the spine of a book I had picked up, almost more than 10 years before that, a children's book called The Lost String Quartet by N.M. Bodecker. And I had picked this book up on the street from a street vendor on Broadway, because out of the corner of my eye I'd seen a beautiful line drawing of a string quartet, and I had to know what this book was, and I read it on the street and I bought it. And from the moment I bought that book, I decided that I wanted to commission a composer and have them create a theatrical string quartet piece for children involving Momenta as actors and players. And the thing I was super excited about was that the story is about a quartet that's trying to get to a concert and everything goes wrong, and one by one their instruments get destroyed. And I was excited about that because I thought we could, as part of the musical journey, get rid of each instrument in a totally safe way, an ergonomic way, and then replace that instrument with a homemade or resourced junk kind of instrument. And so the piece would start as a string quartet and morph into some super experimental thing for a couple strings with homemade instruments and eventually all homemade instruments. So I liked that concept. So after that, I saw the book again. Every couple of years, I revisited the idea, but I couldn't think of who the director would be or who the composer would be. I was like, yeah, that's something I should do someday. And then when I saw the book after meeting Fernando, I was like, there's my director. Fernando's the man for this. And then I decided that I need to look for a composer. And I was like, I don't need to look for a composer. I'll just do it myself. So that's kind of how the project began. And I got really excited about it. So I emailed Fernando and I scanned the book and put it into Dropbox for him. And he immediately responded to it. And we've been Skyping pretty regularly ever since and kind of building this. I'm super excited that it's actually happening. It's been amazing to be here in Avaloch. You can see that we're not in New York City right now, probably from this atmosphere. Yeah, it's been really amazing because we've had no distractions and we've been able to get through probably about a month's worth of work in about 4 days.
By the way, thank you to Avaloch Music Farm for letting us do this.
Yes.
It's been quite amazing.
All of these performances and the development of the piece have been made possible by a potpourri of sponsors. We have 2 specific grants for this production. One of them is a project grant from New Music USA, and the other is a grant from the Lower Manhattan Community Council, and that's specifically for developing this show and performing this show. But also the Momenta Quartet has a number of grants that we have every year for our general operating support. The New York State Council on the Arts, the Aaron Copland Fund for Music, the Alice M. Ditson Fund from Columbia University, and the Amphion Foundation. And in our proposals to all of these funders, we've included this project, so a certain percentage of that money will also go towards Momenta's participation in it. And lastly, I have received 2 composition fellowships. I'm on my 2nd year of a fellowship from NYFA, that's the New York Foundation for the Arts, and I included this piece in my proposal to them, so most of that money is going towards this piece. And I recently received a composition fellowship from the Jerome Foundation, and part of that will also go towards it. And that funding is mainly towards bringing Fernando over from Mexico, documenting the piece, because we're going to get it professionally documented, and also we're bringing Fernando's friend Pedro over from Mexico to be our scenographer. So we're going to do our debut performances in the first week of December in New York City, and I'm very excited about the venue and the audience. We have a built-in audience because we're working with our Momenta's friend and my very close personal friend, Cindy Belen Bertazen. She's an amazing woman, and she runs a nonprofit called the Time in Children's Arts Initiative. And as part of this, she has a beautiful studio in Chelsea, West 29th Street in New York, which is sort of the second home of Momenta Quartet. She lets us rehearse very often there when there aren't classes going on. So she's done a lot for the quartet. Mm-hmm. So when we came up with this project, I thought, well, we should be doing it for her kids, because she's got... She has a program where she brings busloads of inner city kids from public schools in Harlem and the Bronx to this beautiful space in Chelsea, and she does very sophisticated arts activities with them. Not just the typical children's arts and crafts. They're doing extremely, they're learning about sophisticated art concepts integrated with music, opera, dance. She makes field trips and takes them to live performances like Metropolitan Opera, galleries. They're really great kids. They're really excited to be doing art, and we've created this for them. And so the performances for them will be on December 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th. And we're going to do 2 shows a day when they have class time, so 10 a.m. and 12 noon. 50 kids at each show, so we're going to be performing for 400 of these kids, which is a great, great privilege. And then we decided we'd like to do 1 public show just for anyone in the general public, and we're going to do that on Sunday, December 10th at Cindy's Space, the Time in Children's, I guess it's called Time in Gallery technically. It's 227 West 29th for anyone that wants to come.